This weekend, thousands of Americans will walk into Bass Pro Shops and spend a fortune on high-tech camouflage. They will spray scent blockers, wear pixelated patterns, and step into the woods feeling completely invisible. But for 99.9% of human history, that gear didn't exist. Our ancestors walked completely exposed into environments ruled by massive apex predators. But they didn't just survive those encounters. So, how did a fragile, hairless ape become the most terrifying phantom in the wild? The answer changes everything we think we know about survival, intelligence, and what actually makes us human. But here's where the historical record gets absolutely fascinating. Imagine the vast, sweeping expanse of the American Great Plains centuries ago, long before any modern weapons or long-range rifles ever existed. A lone hunter from the Apache or Blackfoot tribe is tracking a massive herd of American bison, heavily horned beasts weighing over a ton that could effortlessly crush a fragile human with a single misstep. Approaching these giant creatures on foot in the open, unforgiving prairie seems like a guaranteed death sentence for any normal primate. Instead of relying on raw muscular speed or brute force, the hunter completely drapes himself in the heavy, pungent pelt of a wild coyote or a gray wolf. He drops down low into the tall, swaying prairie grass, his body meticulously mimicking the precise, creeping movements of a scavenging canine on the prowl. He crawls forward inch by agonizing inch, deliberately closing the distance even while the wind carries his scent directly toward the grazing herd. The gigantic bison slowly raise their massive heads, their nostrils flaring widely as they catch the unmistakable, raw odor of a wolf approaching in the grass. Yet, against all common sense, they do not stampede, they do not panic, and they simply lower their heads to go right back to eating. So why on earth would a herd of incredibly powerful beasts completely ignore a predator creeping right into their personal space? The answer lies in a brilliant, calculated exploitation of the animal's own evolutionary biology. Bison possess an incredibly powerful sense of smell that can detect predators from miles away, but their visual acuity is notoriously poor, meaning they rely almost entirely on their noses to map out danger. Extensive ethnographic records and historical data published in journals like Human Ecology reveal that early Plains Indians understood this specific biological loophole perfectly. In the natural hierarchy of the wild ecosystem, wolves and coyotes were a constant, everyday presence around bison herds, usually hovering nearby to pick off the sick or injured but rarely attacking strong, healthy adults. To a massive adult bison, the distinct smell of a lone wolf was essentially just the background noise of the prairie, a minor nuisance rather than an immediate existential threat. The human hunter knew perfectly well that if he smelled like a man, the entire herd would instantly scatter in absolute terror. By wrapping himself in the freshly cured hide of a familiar canine, he effectively erased his human chemical signature and replaced it with a deceptive scent the bison had already evolved to tolerate. But does this behavioral adaptation merely represent a clever hunting trick? Or does it signify a fundamental shift in how human beings interacted with the world around them? This level of calculated deception required an intimate, almost scientific understanding of the prey's specific anatomical weaknesses and behavioral patterns. The indigenous hunter wasn't merely hiding motionless behind a rock, hoping to go unnoticed. He was actively projecting a completely false biological identity directly into the animal's natural environment. He had to aggressively suppress every single natural human instinct, perfectly replicating the erratic gait, the sudden pauses, and the subtle mannerisms of a wandering wolf to completely fool whatever limited vision the bison actually possessed. This meant the human brain was uniquely capable of analyzing the specific sensory processing unit of a completely different species and meticulously reverse engineering a method to bypass its evolutionary security alarms. It was a profound, unprecedented leap in cognitive evolution where pure intellect and observation entirely replaced physical strength as the primary tool for ecological dominance. We didn't just passively blend into the background like a frightened chameleon reacting to its surroundings. Humans literally hacked the sensory system of nature to survive. But the real secret to our survival goes much deeper than mere visual camouflage. The greatest apex predators of the ancient Americas shared one fundamental, inescapable limitation. Terrifying dire wolves and colossal short-faced bears could only hunt in the immediate present. When a natural predator sees a vulnerable target, it attacks right then and there. It relies entirely on real-time speed and brute muscular force to secure a bloody kill. The hungry animal must constantly risk its own life in a dangerous physical confrontation. The entire dynamic of prehistoric hunting was strictly based on a direct clash of muscles. But humans developed a chilling cognitive ability that completely shattered these established biological rules. We strategically stopped playing the deadly game of pure physical dominance entirely. We completely lacked the thick hides or the bone-crushing jaws of our wild competitors. So, our desperate ancestors had to invent a completely different method of securing protein. We brilliantly shifted the battleground from the physical realm into the abstract psychological dimension. According to a 2010 study published in Antiquity, humans mastered a specific brain function. Cognitive archaeologists officially termed this brilliant evolutionary leap as mental time travel. This is the extraordinary capacity to mentally detach from the immediate, current moment. You can vividly imagine a highly specific event happening in the distant, unseen future. Then, you physically alter the surrounding natural environment to prepare for that exact moment. We stopped exhausting ourselves chasing fast animals and started engineering ways for them to die. A solitary hunter could observe a subtly disturbed patch of dirt near a watering hole. He visualizes a massive beast walking down that exact path 2 entire days later. He then painstakingly constructs a delayed action device using heavy fallen rocks and twisted vines. These intricate mechanical mechanisms required an immense, unprecedented leap in complex abstract intelligence. The hidden trap operates as a lethal, autonomous extension of the human mind itself. It waits silently in the shadows while the creator safely sleeps by a warm fire. How do you possibly outrun a phantom predator that attacks you from the future? Other animals simply react to the immediate sensory inputs provided by their surrounding ecosystem. Humans practically weaponize the dimension of time itself to level the savage playing field. But then science confirmed what history had been quietly whispering all along in 2019. Researchers from the National Institute of Anthropology and History excavated an astonishing prehistoric site. They unearthed the very first known artificial mammoth traps in human history in Tultepec. We are talking about a jaw-dropping network of meticulously dug ancient death trenches. These calculated geometric pits measured over 80 feet long and nearly 6 feet deep. They were deliberately carved into the solid earth roughly 15,000 long years ago. A remarkably small group of early indigenous people engineered this massive, highly effective slaughter zone. These ancient human hunters did not rely on physical might or reckless open battlefield bravery. They successfully faced a terrifying herd of at least 14 giant mammoths without fighting them directly. Instead, they coldly weaponized the prehistoric American landscape itself against the massive roaming beasts. They spent countless hours perfectly calculating the sticky, inescapable consistency of the prehistoric volcanic mud. They possessed the staggering collective intelligence to predict the herd's exact panicked future escape routes. They knew exactly how the giant beasts would instinctively react when their lives were suddenly threatened. What happened next will fundamentally change how you view the concept of survival. The hidden hunters deliberately triggered a massive, chaotic stampede using blazing hot torches and deafening noises. They masterfully exploited the hardwired psychological terror of the towering animals to funnel them directly forward. The panicked prehistoric giants frantically rushed ahead blindly just to survive the terrifying human onslaught. They had absolutely no idea that their desperate flight for safety was mathematically pre-calculated. They collapsed violently under their own immense weight as the solid earth suddenly vanished beneath them. 14 massive creatures were simultaneously neutralized without a single human risking a direct physical confrontation. It was a breathtaking historical masterpiece of biological manipulation and pure environmental engineering on a grand scale. Could any other animal species plot such a devastatingly complex geometric ambush against vastly superior foes? The answer is a resounding no, because only the human mind could build a weapon out of nothing. We used their own massive size and instinctual fear to dig their graves for them. This wasn't strength, this was pure deception. They became the undisputed apex predator, not by outmuscling nature, but by completely outsmarting it. Today, modern humans hike Yosemite trusting digital maps. If the satellite signal dies, panic sets in. We feel entirely helpless in the wild woods. We view untamed nature as a massive threat. Nature is no longer our primary hunting ground. But we forgot our own dark evolutionary truth. Our ancestors were never just fragile, helpless prey. We were the absolute phantoms of the ecosystem. We turned the earth itself into a deadly weapon. We traded those lethal instincts for modern comfort. We safely locked ourselves inside our cozy homes, and we forgot how terrifying we once were.